Lee County Board of County Commissioners zoning hearing will begin. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, I appreciate it. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Good morning. We're going to ask Mr. Danley to take both staff presentations this morning, and we do have some participants of record in each case.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Dirk Danley. I'm a senior planner in community development. Today we have two cases for your consideration. The first of which is case number REZ 2020-017. It is a conventional rezone request for 3.4 acres from single-family residential to multiple-family residential. The hearing examiner recommended approval, and there were two participants of record. Staff and the applicant are here with questions that you may have.
Yes, sir.
12 or 15 years ago, for a period of years, Lehigh Acres was inundated with applications for duplexes. And they were built and overbuilt, and the community became a bit miffed because the driveways were inadequate. There wasn't parking. There wasn't garage doors, and we ended up with a lot of duplexes with 4, 5, 6, or more vehicles parked in their front yard, and it was unsightly, and they were a mess, and the community was upset about it. What can you answer, or can somebody answer for me, what the rules are relating to duplexes and the construction of them in Lehigh today? Because we did make some improvements or stiffen the requirements, and I'm wondering, this is a bunch of duplexes going in here, right?
I think it has the potential for that, yes.
That's what I read is specifically for that.
Yeah, if I can speak briefly on it, we do have in Chapter 33 of the Land Development Code, there's a whole section that pertains to design standards for duplexes. Staff, it's probably important to note that at the state level, there are coming on new preemptions about architectural standards as it pertains to single-family and two-family dwelling units that may contradict with what the Land Development Code says today for those type of requirements, but driveways are something that are required in there. I believe the garages are also required by the Land Development Code, and I believe there are some landscaping requirements as well, just to ensure that it's not the bare minimum that's being provided for duplexes in Lehigh.
Do we have any restrictions on the number of cars you can park in your front yard?
I don't believe so, because that would need to apply to every dwelling unit in Lee County, as opposed to just at duplexes.
Okay, but the driveways are required.
Yes.
And garages, it's your understanding?
That's my understanding. I'm not 100% sure where the preemptions from state statute contradict that requirement, but at this point, yes, they are required.
Well, if anybody can tell me later to the contrary, I'm okay with what you're telling me, but I presume there's at least one single garage with a door on it required for each half of any duplex structure. Glenn, do you got anything to add to that?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
This used to be an issue. I think we've pretty well taken care of it, and I'm just wanting to confirm that, and I see my developmental hand over.
Yes, sir, Commissioner, we are nodding our heads. The state preemption of which you will see at an upcoming workshop does refer mainly to architectural standards, but it doesn't touch the requirement for the garage and the driveway, et cetera.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
I have one question.
Sure.
Is this, for these duplexes, what's the height? Is it just 2 stories, garage, living space above?
The zoning district defaults to a 35-foot maximum height, as do most conventional zoning districts in Lee County. A single-family residential zoning district also allows for that 35 feet in height. There are ways to get additional height, but with the site constraints, I don't think that they'd be able to do that without going through a plan development.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll move the item.
Second.
I have a motion.
There, just for note, there are participants of record. There's 2 participants of record
Oh.
in this case as well.
Start putting it in the record.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Sure. Oh. And I apologize. Either of the participants here? Frank Diolato? You want to come up, sir?
Morning, Commissioners, everyone else here in the room. I live on the corner of 7th and Glen on the south side, on the corner. If I may, I have a pictorial for you. You could look at it. And also a little school. May I approach?
Sure.
Okay. What I'd like to ask the commission, has there been a comprehensive impact study done that is impartial or non-biased?
Could you repeat that again? Sorry.
Has there been a comprehensive impact study done on this particular project that is impartial or non-biased? Because I have some things that should be addressed, and it'd be environmental, geological, and safety issues.
Yeah, please.
Mr. Chair, I'll ask staff to respond, but obviously this has gone through the hearing process and all of the required examinations and analysis. It doesn't require, like for instance, a TIS. I'm not sure what the gentleman's asking, but it's gone through all of its reviews.
Okay, what I'm doing is following up on my testimony I had at the first meeting that we had with some facts. Let's start with the environmental and geological. I don't know if the commission is aware of your well codes 0609, 1606, 0615, 16. The map on page 49 says that we are a restricted well drilling area. This proposal is for as much as 22 wells being drilled on a linear piece of property. That's the wooden thing that I showed you. If you drill that many holes in a straight line, and that doesn't include the geotechnical, which are the test drill holes, it could fracture the upper layer, which is basically sedimentary rock, which is limestone. Limestone, some sand, deteriorated vegetation, stuff like that. Limestone is very soft and porous, and that's what fills our aquifer as far as the artesian aquifer. There's 2 others. The other 2 are the Hawthorne and the Tamiami aquifer by us. Now, take into consideration, this is basically wetlands, okay? And there was a geological study done by the DNR, also done by U.S. Geological Society, Southwest Florida Management, and FSU took place in it. And what was determined, that the sections in the map clearly shows Lee Boulevard to Williams, Richmond, up East 7th, out to Bell Boulevard and out to Moore, which I guess is the end of Lehigh Acres. And the study was interesting because there were two particular areas that were in question. One is in San Carlos Park. The second one is in Lehigh Acres. And what was determined, it was called an interqualifier confining unit. What that means is the qualifier, the aquifers are bound by layers of non-porous materials, which is basically sandstone or quartzite. Quartzite is what they use to build countertops these days. It's hard. It's about a 6 or 7 on the Mohs scale, but it's not permeable. So the emphasis was done that to take care not to cross-contaminate the aquifers, because one could be better than the other. One could have silt, suck, junk, muck, all that stuff, and the other one could be clear water and potable water. There also was great concern about cross-contaminating with salt water. Once those aquifers become contaminated with salt water, it's no longer potable. And once that happens, we're all out of water. We basically have to run fresh water, city water, in. Let's see.
Sir, your time's up.
Man, I got 2 hours worth of stuff. But that's one of the problems. The other thing is it doesn't make fire code. If that's all you allow me, that's all I could do, but there's special permits that have to be done for drilling those wells. The other thing is flooding, and you can see that in the picture. That was during Irma, 4 days after the flood, after the storm passed. And I know he said that they were going to do a retention pond back by Broadway or whatever. It's not going to do anything for Glen.
Mr. Chair, do you want staff to respond to this?
Sure.
Very well. So, I do note that the hearing examiner's recommendation addresses these questions, states that this will not adversely impact environmentally critical or sensitive areas and natural resources. Would point out that the number of units to be built here cannot exceed a certain threshold. If it went over 2.5 units per acre, they would have to tie into utilities. Utility service isn't currently available to the site from FGUA, so they will be drilling wells. The gentleman is correct. That said, the analyses that he are talking about all take place during the development process. So these folks will all have to go through the permitting process and be approved for everything that he's talking about. So all of that will be analyzed at that time. And I don't know if anybody want to add to that?
Thank you. Thank you. Raphael Grigor? Raphael? He's not here? Okay. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back up to the commission. I have a motion, a second. Any other discussion?
I'd just like to point out to Frank, who was here speaking. So, Frank, I don't know if you heard staff completely. So, this is the hearing examiner's recommendations based upon the change of units. All the things you talk about as far as the water, the wells, will go through the development stage. We don't have any authority over that. That'll all be permitted at a later time. That will be done through other departments. Okay? Thank you, sir.
I believe the applicant is here as well. If
Applicant, like to come on up?
I don't need to speak. I'm just here for questions, if there's any questions on it.
Any questions for the applicant? I have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 2, please.
Second and final case is case number DCI 2021-00005. It's Orange River Boulevard Residential Plan Development. This is a plan development rezoning request for 19.99 acres to go from agricultural to residential plan development. The hearing examiner recommended approval with conditions. it should be stated that the maximum dwelling units is 120 dwelling units is being requested for the site. There were 3 participants of record. Staff and the applicant are here with any questions you may have, and the hearing examiner recommended approval with conditions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, here's the,
Any questions? We have 3 participants. Martha Levine?
Morning. I just wanted to enter again into the record. I, of course, spoke at the hearing examiner's meeting, and I just looked yesterday, and the application still did not reflect one correction that I tried to enter into the record, which is that the property west of the proposed development, they had it listed as vacant in the description. And I'm just here to say that it's not vacant. I am the property owner there, and I've been there for 23 years, and I have a small farm there. So I just wanted to, again, enter that into the record here, as I did at the hearing examiner's meeting. And then also, other issues that I wanted to bring up, I already discussed with the applicants, and I'm pleased enough with their answers, but I did just want to, again, once again, enter into the record. At the hearing examiner, I brought up that there was a drainage easement to the northwest corner of the property where would be the flow, natural flow of the drainage there. And they offered to clear it, and I just wanted to, again, put that on the record, that will, and it lists on the report from the hearing examiner that she anticipates that it would be cleared at the time of development. So I just wanted to, again, to bring that point up because it is not cleared now, and it's an important part of the drainage for this area. So that's basically what I just wanted to accomplish today by being here. Thank you for allowing me the time. Oh, can I bring up one more point? I appreciate that there's a provision that the public could be in on the planning stages. So in April, they had a virtual meeting, and no one attended. So, of course, it was advertised in the news press, the due diligence, and there was a sign put on the property. Now, if I could give a, hopefully a helpful criticism, is that me being next door did not know the property was sold. I mean, if there was a sign on the realtor sign that said sold, then maybe I could have checked the news press because less than 20% of the county subscribes to the news press. And then, of course, I didn't see that sign at the entrance. So if there was a sold sign, and I asked the surveyors, and they didn't know if the property was sold. So there was no way for me to know of, unless I checked the news press every day, which me and 80% of the county does not. So I did not know that there was going to be an input stage, and maybe I could have brought these issues up then, and then, alleviate this. So I just wanted to know if that would be a helpful addition in the future when, properties like this are going to be developed, and to have public input to the design of it. Thank you again.
Allison Reardon?
I have no comment.
Mario Gunnery? Does the applicant like to say anything on the record?
For the record, Josh Philpott with Stantec. We agree with staff and the hearing examiner's recommendation and here for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for anyone?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I remember this property when it was what we used to call a junkyard. Even though this looks a little heavy in density, is clearly going to be an improvement over what previously was there. And I think the issues the gentleman addressed have been addressed by the hearing officer or will be, as Commissioner Pendergrass pointed out, addressed in the next steps here. So I'm comfortable making a motion to approve this.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any public comment at all? I'll close public comment. Any other discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries unanimously. That will conclude our items for today. Thank you all.